All right, I think we're hitting noon. So,
Okay.
all right. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the Bureau of Economic Geology Summer Seminar Series. I'm Evan Siva. I'll be your host today. As you know, this series is designed to showcase more than the work we do here at the Bureau. It also shows the hobbies and the interests of our staff and university members and those abroad. Our speaker today is Ramon Trevino. Ramon is the project manager in the Gulf Coast Carbon Center of the Bureau of Economic Geology since 2007. In that time, he has managed 5 large multi-year studies funded by the U.S. Department of Energy's National Energy Technology Laboratory. The first at Cranfield, Mississippi, comprised of injection of several million tons of CO2 into a deep subsurface reservoir and modeling of the CO2's movement by various remote sensing methods involving several national laboratories, international research organizations, commercial organizations, GCCC, researchers, and the University of Texas research assistants. 3 of the studies included both regional and site-specific reservoir and seal characterization of the Miocene age section of the Texas state waters, and field activities involving acquisition of 3 high-resolution 3D seismic data set using, for the first time in the GCC, Gulf of Mexico, a P-cable seismic system. The 5th study involved acquisition of high-resolution 3D seismic survey over the offshore CO2 injection site at Tomakomai. Am I saying that right?
Tomakomai.
Tomakomai, Japan. So with that said, I'm going to please remember to mute your microphone for Ramon while he's talking. You can ask questions in the chat and turn your mic on at the end of the conversation. And you can ask Ramon more questions. So I will turn it over to Ramon now.
Thanks, Evan. So what I'll talk to you about today has nothing to do with all the things that Evan mentioned today. It's actually been a hobby of mine since I was a kid. I think I had my first garden when I was, I know I was a teenager, but I don't remember exactly how old. I've just always been interested in it. So I just wanted to talk to you all about the garden. Some of you may be unaware that we have a community garden. And so the folks in the group, thought it'd be a good idea when Evan and Raj came to us and said, would you be interested in talking about it? So I volunteered to do that. So when we started this was the garden idea, I think started with Jay Kipper. I'm not sure. It's sort of lost in my memory. I don't remember. So if anybody remembers, oh, by the way, if there's a question or something and some of the other folks from the garden group want to jump in at any time, please feel free to do so. This is really informal. So we started about 2019, the spring of 2019, and we first thought, okay, so let's find out what the soil is like around here. So Jeff Payne gave us an aerial photo that he had available of the PRC back in 1958, which is even older than I am. So and so this is what it looked like back then. This is where Jeff said that our current building 130 is located. Here's the CRC, and this is MSL. And our garden is located right here. There's now a big tower here. So it's located right here. And what you'll see here, we think there was some sort of dump there. So we were concerned about the soil. We're like, well, wait a minute here. Do we want to be growing stuff and then eating it? If there might be some contamination. So we were concerned. We said, let's get the soil tested. Well, luckily we are the Bureau of Economic Geology. While soil isn't one of our, purviews, we did have Brent Elliott working with us at the time. And so he did some XRF testing. Ramon Gill and I went out there and took some soil samples, and he tested them for us using X-ray this by the time all of it was in place, it was too late to plant in the late spring and summer. So we waited until the fall. So of course, our friend, actually our enemy, the Bermuda grass took over right away. It got in there, so we had to get in there and get it cleaned up. We have plenty of tools since then. You can see here we were starting to clear up the Bermuda grass to get it ready for the fall planting, which is in some ways in Central Texas and in most of Texas, the fall is actually one of the easier times to grow garden crops because there's you're not dealing with as many pests as you are in the spring and summer, and the weather's cooler, so you don't have to fight, the heat to keep things moist, etc. as much. So the winter garden, we got after it. This was in October. There was a cool front that had come through, so you can see we had our jackets on. But we went over to Shoal Creek Nursery. Marie Victor and Amelia Bridges were also very instrumental in that first garden back in the fall of 2019. And we brought it in and rolled up our sleeves and put our gloves on or not, got our hands dirty and started planting. So we planted mostly, obviously, cool weather crops. This was mostly the cabbage family stuff: cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi, etc. And here, Marie and Kylene getting their horns up, putting some of the plants in the ground. And you can see also there's a little bird netting that we put up because we were concerned about how to keep some of the pests away. Birds like to peck on stuff a lot, and deer was another concern, but we were lucky that year. There was no deer. There actually are deer out here. I pickle sometimes. I think Teresa Kiowa told us when she saw a buck out here messing with one of our trees several years ago. So we were concerned, but we were lucky. Here's Amelia also working in there, and this is after a few weeks. You can maybe see the netting right here. But after a few weeks, they were doing great. I mean, the compost was really, really rich, and it was a fairly wet fall, so we didn't have to do a whole lot of irrigation. So you can see here some, so I think this was mustard greens. And anyway, there's some other things here. This, I think, I can't remember what that is right there. Here's some broccoli. You can see a head of broccoli. This is, it's hard to tell because these are all related plants. And so some of this might be collard greens. We also grew some of that. You can see the weeds love the the weeds love the nice soil also. So, we have to work against that sometimes, but it just takes a little bit of elbow grease to get it cleaned up. So this is what it looked like when things are about midway through the growing season. So it's looking really good. And then, harvest time is always the best time for gardeners. And at the 2019 holiday party, Amelia and Marie had the idea that we should, kind of share this with the rest of the Bureau. So I call it Market Day. It was like we went to market and they showed some of the things we were harvesting at the time. Next to all the sweets table over here, but it was nice. So here's some, I think these were collard greens that I was harvesting at the time. So of course, then the pandemic came. We were actually thinking about expanding because there was a lot of interest in putting another plot in. But then the pandemic hit, of course, last March of 2020 and put everything on hold. And by the time some of us started drifting back to work this year, like I said, the weeds sure love that nice, healthy compost. And so they basically taken over. So it was overrun. It'd been over a year that we hadn't done anything with it. Lots of sunflowers and all sorts of other stuff growing in there. But there was another group of folks, some of the same, but also some new folks who said, hey, let's revive this. So a lot of folks started working out there. You can see it was this work in progress at the time. So it took some, like I said, some elbow grease, some strong backs, and some determination, because especially the Bermuda grass, boy, that I call it the devil weed because it's hard to get rid of. But it got done. And here's some of the folks who got out there and did it. Gail. This is Gail, Sayed, and Sue. And of course, we had some help from Sue's dog, Petra. It's always helped. It always helps to have friends along. And Petra was wondering when she'd get to go back in there and dig again, I'm sure. And here's Kylene. So these were the folks that really got out there and did a lot of the cleaning up. There may be other folks. Like I said, I wasn't involved this year, actually in the garden, other than as part of the group chatting about it. But if there's anybody else I forget, please forgive me. I was, like I say, I wasn't as involved to see who was actually out there working. So then planting time, Sue had a bunch of seedlings, extra seedlings from her own garden that she contributed. I may have brought a few myself, but these are the ones that Sue contributed. You can see tomatoes, etc. in here. And this is, once again, the bird netting, especially for these are tomato plants here that were planted. And then squash, because this was, unlike the first garden, which was a fall garden, this was going to be a spring and summer garden. So it's different plants, tomatoes, squash, watermelons and stuff. I'll show you in a minute. So the best part, again, is always the harvest. And the first things that were harvested were radishes. Sue's holding some radishes here, and they grow pretty quickly, and it's nice to have because at least you don't have to wait forever to harvest something. So pop quiz. We are a university. Here's your first quiz for the day. What's this blossom? Actually, folks, if you want to put it in the chat, go ahead. But if you want to speak up, let's see, can anybody guess what this is? I'll give you a few seconds. Come on, don't be shy. No? There's somebody, I don't see the chat.
We got a few in the chat.
What do they say?
They're saying it's okra.
Yep, that's right. It's okra. Very good. This is a better view of it. You can see the little baby okra showing up here. So those are previous flowers, and this is the one that's blooming. They're really nice looking blossoms, really. They're quite pretty. And they love the heat. As long as you keep them watered, man, right now is the time that they're going crazy out there. So if you like okra, talk to some of the gardeners who are working out there. I think they've got a lot to offer, and you got to pick them quickly. Otherwise they get really fibrous and can't eat them much. So here's some more garden pictures, harvest pictures. This is a beautiful set of squash blossoms. This is zucchini. And here's some that I think Sayed harvested these. Really nice looking zucchini. But of course, you know, you have to pay Mother Nature her tax. At the time, Sayed asked me what this was. I thought, oh, it's probably like a squash vine borer, because these are all organic, so we don't add pesticides or anything like that. But I think as I look at this again, I think this might have been some pill bugs doing part of the damage. But here's another squash. This is butternut squash, immature. It's not ready yet. They're not mature until the little vine here turns brown, and they turn sort of tan colored brown. But you can see the blossoms are really nice, and actually the squash blossom is eaten also, especially the male ones. There's a male and a female, and you can eat them. My grandmother used to, you know, it's a vegetable basically, so they're also tasty. And here's some tomatoes. Of course, most gardeners, you know, want to grow tomatoes, or a lot of people do. And here's some immature tomatoes, and this is what they looked like. I think it was last month, maybe June. I don't remember when this was harvested, but Kylene and Gail and other folks were harvesting them, bringing them in here and putting them downstairs in the lobby. And so hopefully some of y'all got to taste them. I got one or two. They were really tasty. It was a nice crop this year. You can see different varieties here, some Roman tomatoes and some others. And here's Rudy Lucero. He harvested some of this was a large zucchini. You got to watch it. If you don't harvest them right away, they get big. This wasn't even the biggest one I saw this year in my own garden. I harvested some monsters, but it's just because I waited too long. And here's some more summer fruits and veggies. This is obviously, at least obviously to me, watermelon. And you can see here some purple basil. So that's also nice and tasty. Nice thing about those is I think most deer and stuff will stay away from them. Rabbits is something else you have to worry about. And here's a cantaloupe. You can see down here underneath the vine. Sue calls it the squash and the squash jungle because it's just going crazy. Evan said he'd seen a whole bunch out there. He looked out there too, and he said it really is going nuts. We've had an unusually cool and wet summer this year, so I mean, stuff's going nuts. Usually by now, a lot of this stuff is done, but apparently it's still going. Oh yeah, once again, Mother Nature's tax. This one, this watermelon didn't do so well. It got some sort of watermelon rot here. I'm not familiar with it. I've never grown watermelon, but and Sue harvested it and is like, yeah, this isn't edible. But once again, if you got friends, you can work things out. And so Sue took that one to her chickens and she said they loved it. They went to town. So it's not always a total loss when things go bad in the garden. And here's some more pictures. This is, I think it's a patty pan. Maybe somebody else knows a little better, but I think this is a patty pan, immature patty pan squash, which is, you don't usually find these in the grocery store. I don't know why, but they're really tasty. I've grown them in the past in my own garden, and apparently there were several of them out there this year. But they're what's known as a winter squash. It's like a butternut. So you have to wait until they get, or wait a minute, maybe I'm wrong. But this one's not mature. This one's not mature yet. So anyway, and here's a few more just for fun. This is an acorn squash. Pretty sure this one's not mature. You can see the little stem here is still green. These are definitely winter squashes, even though they grow in the summer around here. But they're called winter squashes because they can keep a long time, and you don't eat the peel. With a summer squash like the zucchini and the patty pan, you can eat the peel. You don't have to peel them, but butternut and other stuff you have to peel. And then finally, the summer champion is especially around here when it gets really hot, is the okra. And here I think Sayed holding these two okra, and they've been harvesting them for a while now. I think they also have some eggplant out there, but I didn't have any pictures of those. Also a summer vegetable, spring and summer. And so soon we're going to be, we've already started talking about a fall garden 2021 for our community garden. And I went out there and found some pictures of garden gloves, and I thought this one was cool. I'd never seen this before. And I thought, man, even if you don't use it for your garden, you could use it for Halloween. I mean, this looks pretty menacing to me. But if you're interested, get your overalls out and get your little friends to come and help you, because that's always fun too, having little helpers out there. And it's easy. If you all are interested in joining the garden group around here at BEG, it's easy. Just let one of us know. Some of the folks that I mentioned and you saw in the pictures, Kylene said she'd be the point of contact, so just let her know. And basically, it's simple. Right now, what we've been doing this spring and summer is, chatting via Teams rather than email, because that just, I'm sure everybody's email inboxes are totally full. So we thought Teams chat never makes it easy. So that's basically how you join and how you communicate. Let Kylene know, or Gail, or any of the other folks you saw on there know, including me. Although I will be on vacation for the next few weeks, so you may want to try some of the other folks. So anyway, that's all I had for you all today. I'd be glad to answer questions, and I'm hoping some of our other gardeners are on here to help answer some of these questions. Let's see, and I can also look at the chat. Let's see here. Sue says somebody needs to pick okra today. Yeah, that's true. They will go real fibrous really fast. So can folks unmute now, Raj?
Yes, they can. If you would like to ask a question, unmute and just ask.
Yeah, Tristan says, bet the horse wouldn't mind it either. Yeah, that I'm sure he's talking about the watermelon. Yeah, probably not. I'm sure the horse would like it. And of course, green tomatoes, you can actually fry them up. And Teresa said you might want to consider putting really thick layer of newspaper down to try to cut down on the weeds. Yep. Yeah, that's true. Any cover. I at home I use pine straw that I go and buy from the natural gardener. I've used that for years. It's great because it doesn't have seeds for the most part. So it's really, really good, and it helps to cut down on the evaporation. Hey, Tristan, got a question?
Hey, yeah. So I'm pretty unfamiliar with compost, and I've always wondered what are the rules surrounding compost, and how do people do compost properly?
Yeah, so what you got to do with compost, you got to have 50-50 brown versus green. So the brown is carbon. So good stuff for that is like leaves from the fall, or around here, the live oaks are great because, you know, you get some of that in the spring too. So 50 and then 50% of that versus 50%, and this is by volume, 50% of green stuff. And the green stuff can be kitchen scraps, as long as it's not like animal products. You don't want to be putting bones or meat or anything like that, because that'll attract vermin.
Sure.
And usually at home, you're not going to have a compost pile that's big enough to really heat up, really get hot, enough to kill pathogens. You don't want to put any pathogens in there. So just stay away from animal stuff. But you know, like some of the stuff that went bad there, I mean, you could put that in your compost pile, although it's usually good not to put too many seeds in there. But banana peels, orange peels, you know, onion peels, you name it. So, you know, I wouldn't put like peach pits or stuff like that. But other than that, and keep it kind of moist, not super wet. It should be sort of like feel like I've read online, you know, make it feel like a wet sponge, but it
Sure.
shouldn't be dripping. And around here, that's important because it's so hot that things dry up. And if it dries out, it'll kind of stop the process. But also it needs to have oxygen. If you have a compost pile, you go and you kind of turn it and it smells yucky, then it's not right. It's either got too much water or you haven't turned it enough. You haven't introduced any oxygen. It needs to have oxygen, otherwise you get the anaerobic bacteria going, and that stinks. No, it'll smell really sweet. It'll smell like it took me a while. I thought, oh man, I'm putting too many orange peels in there because it smells like oranges.
Really?
That was actually the smell, and sometimes it smells like pine or something. So
Fascinating.
yeah.
Grass, you forgot to mention grass clippings.
Yes, grass clippings are great too. I don't use them myself because I'm afraid of introducing seeds in there, and then once you put it back into your garden, you know, it can, but if you're careful, yeah. Teresa says live oak do not make good compost. I totally disagree with you, Teresa. Sorry, I use it all the time.
This is the virtue of these hobbies, is you can argue about these things.
And we do. No, I use it all the time. It takes a little bit longer, but no, it breaks down great.
I've heard that it has something that keeps things from growing, so it's good for a path.
Oh, maybe. I've never heard that. Could be.
That's the virtue of these things. You can get so many arguments from the agriculture, and we don't argue. We just try all of them in the garden.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, well, let's try it.
So what we have for compost from UT is what UT makes, and I'm sure it's got a good bit of live oak in it because UT's got a good bit of live oak. But they're picking up. They're taking all their brown material and putting it in big piles and composting it, and it's beautiful stuff. And it has what it has. And if you want to do it at home, it's fun and virtuous. Bigger is better. You want some mass on the compost, so it's hard to do an apartment size compost. It's nice if you have a chunk of where you can get a couple cubic meters going, and there are hundreds of compost schemes. We could argue about them infinitely, but fortunately, many of them will work.
Yeah, one of the ones that I've read about as far as composting at home in an apartment, for example, if you don't have a whole lot, and it's hard to. I used to take the coffee grounds. I used to collect, and I still do to some degree here on the second floor, but there's not a lot of folks here. But I used to collect the coffee grounds on the first and second floor and take them home to my compost pile. It's great because coffee grounds are already ground up and they count as the green, the nitrogen portion. And man, it's awesome stuff. I will talk, Sue mentioned that UT's compost pile here, it's beautiful. They have a mountain and they use it on the grounds here for plants, etc. But I do remember one time somebody rustled some of the compost. I think Amelia was, do you remember that, Amelia? I see you on there. Somebody came apparently with a pickup and stole a whole pile. And these are big piles. And poor Kip was actually, Amelia said he was at the verge of tears. Yeah, so it happens. Compost is sought after. It's black gold.
Hey, Ramon, thanks for your talk. I really appreciate you presenting on the garden and advertising it to new members. And it was really great to see people together in photos again, you know.
Yeah.
I had a question. What are you guys planning to do for the fall? Any plants in mind or a timeline for that?
I'm going to leave that open to the folks that have been active this year. That hasn't been me. I know we started talking about it last week or so, but I'm not sure what the plans, if there are any plans yet.
Now's a good time to talk about it, right? Some of the
Yeah.
gardeners are on here and anyone who wants to join in. It's a community garden, so it's a compromised garden.
Mhm.
Right now we have a problem that the entire thing is going so strong. I'm not sure that, and with the, it hasn't been so hot and it's been raining and Kip has been watering. So the garden is, normal Texas fall gardening, the garden would be beginning to collapse in the heat, and it may yet collapse in August. So part of the problem is we will have to decide if we want to rip it out and put a fall, it's going to be if the tomatoes keep going through the fall, we'll see what August has in store for us, and then we'll know if it takes the tomatoes and squash and pumpkin and watermelons down, then we have one plan, and if they're still going, we have a question about.
Well, the other thing is, I thought that Randy. I didn't mention Randy Ellis. He's in charge of the grounds crew here. I think he's still in charge. And Kip, I showed you a picture with Kip in there with the caterpillar, hauling the compost. I know that they wanted to expand it and add another plot right from the start, and we were going to do that in spring of 2020, but of course it never happened. So I think if we talk to Kip and Randy, they'll put in another plot, so that'll free up. And it's good Sue and I argue about this endlessly, but it's good to rotate. She says, "Oh no, I'm going to grow what I want to grow every year," and I'm like, "No." The recommendation is that you should rotate and not plant the same thing over and over, because after a while the same pests get worse and worse. And for example, if you grow beans in the same place over and over, they introduce, I can't remember what it is, something into the ground, and after a while they don't grow anymore. I think I've done that at home because I haven't been able to grow beans for the last 2 years, or peas and things like that. So there is virtue in rotating crops. So if you have 2 plots, you can do that.
So that's what we need. And we need
Yeah.
a few more gardeners. So we need you if you're enchanted. And of course the lift is not heavy, but
Yeah.
we need some more hands. And it's so pleasant to, when you have a contract deliverable, to realize that you just gotta go pull a few weeds.
Yeah, it's a great break.
Yeah, I mean, I can add a comment as a first time member of the group, for this year. So yeah, it's a great fun, in my lunchtime, I just walk from my office to the garden, grab a couple of tomatoes and peppers and just eat it with my lunch, so it's been great. You can get fresh produce and all that. Yeah. So I recommend it, for anybody who's interested.
Yeah, and please, if you're not an experienced gardener, don't let that stop you. I mean, the fun is like Sue says, the fun is to try something and see if it works. And there are some of us who have some more experience, and we'd be glad to answer questions. We may be wrong, but we'll answer questions. And I'm sure there's other folks here at the Bureau who have experience growing things. Ramon Gill actually used to have his own farm in Venezuela. I don't think he's on here today, but so he's brought us a lot of good experience over the last couple of years. So, yeah. Teresa says whenever she sees weeds, she feels compelled to pull them. Teresa, pull away, pull away. You're welcome to come over anytime. And it is great therapy, like Sue says. It's very zen. You sort of are in the moment and the stress just sort of melts away.
It happens to me every contract report. Like, I really don't like this thing they send in that I have to merge in, and I'm getting irritable. So I go over and there's some tall, our grass is not, we put down pretty good compost. We could add to it next year. Mulch, I put in hay, and Ramon worried that I put in seeds, but I don't think we could put a newspaper, but then we get pill bugs, but we can have fun. I'd like to go over and eat things. I like to go over and pull weeds because you don't get to do that with your collaborators that easily. Just pull them up.
Yeah, it is great therapy. I'll say that much. And it's just good. Get outside, get some fresh air, even just the walk over there for those of us who work in building 130 or come in on the weekends, and just walk over there and walk back it's good. It's mentally good. And the garden group is part of the wellness group. I didn't mention the rest of that, but back 2.5 years ago, the wellness group was started. And one of the major things we did in the wellness group, I wasn't as involved in it as others were, but was to establish the recharge room down on the first floor. But I'm not talking about that today because, like I said, I wasn't as involved. But there's all sorts of stuff in there. Folks may remember the ping pong table, and there's isometric exercise equipment there. There's even a bicycle and a helmet, which I aired up the bike last week. I brought because it was totally flat, of course, after a year and a half, nobody used it. But that's for a different talk, and I'll let somebody else do that. Anyway, that's all I had today.
Let's see. Melissa has a comment about
Fungi
mushroom.
mycelium. Yes, she's an expert at that. Really good for gardens, especially King Stropharia, also known as garden giant. Yeah, Melissa, by all means, I know nothing about mycelia, fungi or anything like that. So I know that they do help break things down, and sometimes I'm sure they help in the compost pile to some degree. So like I said, that's all I had today. Hi, Kylie.
Hey, so I went out to the garden right before this talk just to see what's going on and met Rudy and Kip. And I asked Kip about expanding the garden and Rudy, and they were all for it. And Kip's boss has retired. I forgot who he said his name is, but
oh yeah, Randy.
Yeah, Randy. Randy retired. I think right around when Bill Ambrose retired, about that same day or day after. So Kip's all for it, and Rudy was like, we can do it all the way to the tree. And Kip's like, yeah, let's go for it. So Kip just got back from vacation, and the first thing he checked was his baby's vegetables and fruit in the garden. So we have
I'd like to solarize another plot. Solarize it, you get Kip to dig it up and not put the compost out yet. Just dig it up, and we pull out, a little bit of the Bermuda, but mostly you cover it with plastic. Now, Ramon and I'll have to debate black or clear plastic. It's a great decision point. But you spread plastic over it.
Black.
And then you let it go for August in the heat, and it will kill most of the seeds and kill back the weeds, which is one of the missing things. This is a good bit of Bermuda out there, and Bermuda is so tough, and there's Bermuda and the chalk. So if we could dig it up and nucleate and August solarize the Bermuda grass, it would make lovely. It improves the tilth and all that sort of stuff. But we need some more hands. So we need y'all to say, well, I'd like to check it out. See, let us know so we have enough eaters, personnel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I actually offered, somewhere at my house, I have a big black plastic tarp that I offered, and I've forgotten to bring it in, but I'll maybe bring it in next week or this weekend. So yeah, let us know if you're interested. We're, like I said, everybody's invited.
So Kylene, if we do another plot, we can put it with a separate, so we can do crop rotation per Ramon's desire. If we make them separate, then the pests will not migrate from, if we put a grass strip between them. Ask them about, because they're the grounds guys who have to mow. So ask them if they consider separating, making us 2 plots with a barrier so that we could alternate crops. We get real professional.
I know that when they started doing it, the second plot right before COVID hit, they were separated. So, I mean, I'm sure he's willing to do it however we want to. We probably just have to meet with them and, let them know what you're thinking about for colorizing black or plastic or.
So it's easy. So we want to dig before they move we want to dig it up and get the disturb the Bermuda and pull some of it out, put the fence around it, and then we put the plastic out, and then later he brings the compost, because you don't want to solarize your compost, because it would break it down to, he's got nice compost, I think. I mean, there's 1,000 opinions about how to do this. But,
yeah, because the compost actually has good, what's the word I'm looking for? Bacteria.
Microbes, microbes,
yeah.
And you don't want to hurt them. And also I want to get to I think the weed problem is related to the Bermuda and the chalk, that the chalk's pretty shallow and the Bermuda roots are going down to the chalk rubble, and they like it, and Bermuda can do that, and we want to dissuade them. Yeah.
Well, since we are geoscientists around here, one of the things I just remembered is when Brent Elliott did his XRF analysis, one of the elements that was high was magnesium. Guess what? That makes total sense because there's dolomite out here.
Well, I think it's chalk, so I don't think there's that much. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they used to mine for dolomite. That's during the World War II. That's what they did. They had pits.
Yeah, but we could argue in the garden group. I think they're bringing it. We should find out more rather than argue about it. I think they weren't mining dolomite here. They're bringing it out of the Edwards, which has it has nice dolomite zones, but it's nice dirt because the chalk has got all those volcanic clastics in it. So.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'm not sure that we're on the chalk here, but maybe we are.
We need some geologists to figure this out.
Yeah, we need to go hire some. Do you know any place where you can find maps about the geology around here? Anyway, it's time for me to shut up. Y'all know, if y'all know me, you know that's hard for me to do. Mute me, Raj, otherwise I'll keep talking.
Let's see. Well, it looks like we got a new member.
Great.
Looks like Tristan is in, so that's awesome. Anyway, anybody else have any questions, comments for Ramon? And don't forget that this talk is going on to the BEG YouTube channel. So once we have that link available, we can forward it to anybody who wants it, and then your friends, anybody. So let me or Evan know, and we can forward that to you, or even Aaron can forward it to you. So if we don't have any more questions or comments, I'd like to thank Ramon Trevino for this great talk. And don't forget to join us again for the BEG Summer Seminar Series next week. We'll have Robin Damise, I think, or Damis. Forgive me, Robin. I'm probably mispronouncing. Anyway, we'll have Ramon talk to us about the Permian Basin. So until then, have a good week, good weekend, and a good afternoon. Thanks, everybody.